Welcome, and thank you everyone for attending GrowSafe's Accelerating Efficiency Together webinar series. I'm Danielle Starr. I'm GrowSafe's Global Marketing Communications Manager, and today with us we have Kevin Garossino. He's GrowSafe's Senior Data Analyst. He is going to be discussing the importance of data and planning for a 49-day RFI trial. Just as you have been, please continue to register for each webinar so you can join us live like you are today, or also watch on demand if you can't attend our live sessions. As you have been, you're going to continue to receive emails with the link to the on-demand recording if you're not able to join us. Each session is going to consist of 20 minutes for presentations, and then at the end, we're going to have 10 minutes for questions. You're going to see there's a Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Even if you have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to submit your questions there. As long as you can submit those with your name. If we can't get to all the questions, we'll be sure to get to your questions after our session today, but we'll do our best to get to as many questions as possible during this session. You'll also notice that we're going to have a couple of polling questions throughout the presentation. We invite you to engage because we share those results back with you immediately. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin. Kevin, feel free to get started.
All right, thanks, Danielle. So my name's Kevin Garossino. Today I'll be talking to you about the importance of data and planning for a 49-day RFI trial. I am the lead data analyst at GrowSafe Systems, and I've been here for 12 years now. So we've developed a lot of these protocols through the years to improve this. One of the things that we have to remember as we go through this presentation is that accurate data collection is the cornerstone for measuring feed efficiency. So some of the things we'll be going through today is standardization of a trial, planning an RFI trial, and then we'll also look a little bit at the Chute weight method of measuring average daily gain, which takes 70 days, and the GrowSafe beef method of taking average daily gain, which is only a 49-day trial. And then at the end, as Danielle mentioned, we'll look at some questions as well. So first of all, why is standardization important? So all RFI trials need to follow the same standards. Standardization allows for comparison of EPD across trials and across breeds. It's also critical when comparing cattle with different origins and different geographical locations. So GrowSafe has clients all over the world, also different origins. So many of our clients have different consignors that test in the same trial group over that same time, as well as different producers do things a little bit different in their own style on their location. Because we have different breeds, many of these producers have some influence from the breed associations. So if you look at Red Angus Association, they look at 35 valid intake days. American Angus looks at 40-day trials and want 35 valid intake days. So we just need to standardize this for all of our clients. Some other standards that GrowSafe has strived to basically incorporate over the years is data validation. So this needs to be the same across all trials. So this is why we have trial length requirements. Also, the TSRs, or technical service reps from GrowSafe, log into every system every day and look at the data and decide whether, based on a set criteria, whether that data is valid or not. So some of these criteria are things like assigned feed disappearance. So basically that's any time that feed disappears out of the bunk, that it's assigned to an animal. So what percentage of that feed has been assigned to animals during that time? There's also empty bunk time and several other parameters. So what does this do? So again, with GrowSafe being located across the world, different time zones, different climates, it strengthens the quality of data overall. And it also increases the validity of genetic linkages. And I believe, Danielle, we have our first poll question. So basically, we're just asking here, after how many days can average daily gain be calculated using GrowSafe beef in-pen weighing technology? And I think we'll probably just wait for a minute for the results.
Yep, we have a few more voters coming in. Okay, I'm going to end the poll.
Okay, so we have about 19% of the people polled said 70 days. 73% said 49 days, and 8% said 35 days. So basically, for average daily gain on a GrowSafe beef system, because we do continuous weighing, is we need 49 days between the start and end of that trial. Okay, and then we'll just continue on here. So basically, planning for an EPD trial, okay, trial duration is a key part. So we need a warm-up period to start this. So what does this do? Basically, this warm-up period needs to be 10 to 14 days. The animals must be in the pen with half duplex RFID tags. So the GrowSafe system will not read full duplex, and that's because of the close proximity. Some of the other reasons for the warm-up period is it acclimates animals to the system and to the ration, especially when we have different consigners bringing animals in from different locations on the same trial group. And it also ensures that EIDs are working and equipment is working well, and we get a bit of a background on those animals. It also acclimates those systems to the system and the ration. The trial, so 35 days of valid intake. So of these 35 days, you need to have at least one valid day in the first 5 and one valid day in the second 5, or sorry, in the last 5 days of the trial. So the reason we do this is because we're looking at average dry matter intake, is that's when that average can really fluctuate based on those first few days. So if you miss a bunch of days in the middle, which obviously we want to get every day that we can, then we want to get every day we can, but misses in the middle aren't quite as crucial as near the end. How do we accurately measure average daily gain? So again, for the chute weight, we need 70 days between the start and the end weights. So this basically means that you need 70 days between the start and end. This does not include the trial warm-up period. Whereas with GrowSafe beef weights, all we need is 49 days to accurately measure that average daily gain. Sorry. So I want you to please note the difference between the trial length using the chute weights, which is 70 days, and 49 days. Again, these have to be half duplex tags. What else do we need from the client? So basically, we need individual animal intake data linked to the EIDs. So we need the date of birth of the animals. We need the breed, the sex, the origin. If you're doing EPDs, we also need a 3-generation pedigree, including the breed association or registry. One of the reasons for this is that some animals are registered in multiple breed associations. Also, it comes up time to time that what we already have may differ from what a client is giving us for their 3-generation pedigree. And so we need to verify which is correct. And we also need chute weights. The other things that we need from a client standpoint to increase the validity of data and get as many valid days as possible is we need clients to respond to the TSRs or technical service reps. So if they leave trial notes asking questions, or if there's an action item that needs fixing or correcting, is if the clients respond to that quickly, we can get back collecting valid data as soon as possible. The last one that we have is trial group considerations, and we will go into this in a little bit as well. And Danielle, I believe that brings us to our next polling question.
All right, let me pull that up for you.
So what is the maximum age range between animals in an RFI trial group allowed? Is it 120 days, 90 days, or 30 days?
We still have votes coming in, so I'll leave it open here just for a couple more seconds. All right, we're going to end the poll.
All right, so we had 8% with 120 days. More data is always better. We have 78% at 90 days and 14% at 30 days for an age range. So actually the correct answer here is 90 days. BIF actually does 60 days. GrowSafe sometimes is we've extended our age range a little bit in the fact that because we have different consigners, I mean, even for within consignor groups, sometimes it's tough to get within 60 days. So we try and balance what's accurate data with what's feasible in our producer feedlot as well. So the next part for planning an RFI-EPD trial, and this one's always a tough one for people to get, is the trial groups. So they need to be of similar weight. So that weight range is we've discussed with many clients before, at the start of test should not exceed about 400 pounds. Now we're not 100% strict on that. Usually we'll give a little bit of lenience as long as the age is close, okay? As we just discussed, the age range must be within 90 days. So those birth dates must be within 90 days of each other. The main reason for this is we want to capture animals that are in the same stage of their growth curve. So if you have an animal that's at its peak growth curve, trying to compare them on a phenotype to an animal that's finishing, their average daily gains are going to be vastly different, and therefore they're not really comparable animals. So it's key to try and test the same animals or animals at the same stage of their growth curve. So we want animals between 8 and 18 months at the start of trial. 18 months is pushing it a little bit. A lot of times we'll start to see some animals finishing at that time. We need to have same or similar breeds. So obviously you can't compare an Angus to something like a Brahma animal. One of the other key points is that consignor naming consistency. So when you provide those origins to us, is John Doe and John Doe farms are treated essentially as different consignors. So that can have a bit of an effect on your APDs. So currently also GrowSafe is working on tools to assist clients with all aspects of trying to keep similar animals in similar pens. So essentially we're working on what will be basically a pre-sort tool. So if you have the date of birth and your first shoot weights we'll have software that will try and help you put those animals into similar contemporary groups, trial groups and pens. So just on to a little bit of a comparison between the Chute and the GrowSafe beef weights. So GrowSafe beef, again, is a 49-day trial length following the 10 to 14-day warm-up period. Currently at this time, we need one chute, which is mandatory. This is for a couple reasons, is it helps us determine with the GrowSafe beef system, because it's just the front and partial body weight, it helps us determine that conversion factor to convert to full body weight. We also need the animals in the pen for at least 7 days with the EID tags. And also if you're going to do a shoot weight at the end for comparison on the GrowSafe beef, is we need the animals in that pen 1 day after as well. And that's just because GrowSafe beef uses a bunch of different days to come up with a single day value for that weight based on that animal. So it takes out some of the fluctuation. The shoot weight again would be 70 days after that warm-up period. You need a minimum of 4 shoot weights. So 2 at the start, 2 at the end are required consecutive days. And also we prefer one in the middle. The reason being is that if one of those shoot weights, consecutive day shoot weights, is out by more than about 3 standard deviations, so about a little bit over 50 pounds from each other on consecutive days, is if we can't tell which of those consecutive day shoot weights that differ by that much are out, then essentially we're going to omit that animal from the trial because we don't know what that animal's average daily gain really is. Okay, so some of the benefits of using the GrowSafe beef system in this way is, excuse me, is we're going to reduce handling. You don't have to handle the animals as often, and we're also going to see in the next few slides the comparisons of accuracy as well. So given several shoot weights, is what we did is we took basically a trial. We took the GrowSafe beef weights and we ran this trial for 70 days. And so we compared, basically we took the mid weight. So based on all the weights, is we draw a regression line through all of those weights and come up with a mid weight for that, for the animals on that trial. Then what we did is we looked at from the start of the trial to 21 days and then went in week increments. So then the start of the trial to 28, 35, etc. and took the mid weights of all those same animals and compared them to what the full trial or 70 days was on that. And we can see from the correlations, excuse me, that at about 21 days we're about 98% correlated. So basically those weights were about 98% similar. And as we go by the weekly increments, is around 49 days we get over 99% correlation or accuracy, regardless of whether we use that 49, the start to 49 days, or the full weight. So basically they're the same. And it really levels out, you know, after that period. Alternate, or I guess the other way that we also looked at it was we looked at from the end, 21 days before that, 28 days before that, and so on, and compared those. And again, at about 49 days, we're over 99% accurate, whether we use the shorter period or the full weight. Down at the bottom right of this graph is if we looked at just the shoot weights, so the mid weight taken from the regression line of just shoot weights and compared it to the GrowSafe beef full weight, is we were about 95% accurate, or you know, they were about 95% the same. If we look on the right graph, again, we can see the correlation of the start and end periods. So we were just looking the start to 21 days as well as the end 21 days back. So basically a 21-day period, 28-day period, 35-day period, and looked at the correlations of those regardless of whether they were from the start or the end. And again, we can see, so at the 21 days, those mid weights were about 95% the same. As we go up, we can see 49 days at over 98%, and it doesn't get much better than that throughout that trial. So this is where GrowSafe has arrived at that 49 days to accurately measure average daily gain. Some more things that we found when we looked at shoot weights. Some of those factors that affect these shoot weights, you know, time of day, room and fill, other cattle pushing up against the chutes. You know, some people, you know, obviously clients are trying to, if they have a lot of animals to run through, they've got 15 other things they need to do that day. So sometimes the time just isn't taken as properly as it should be. Also, when was the last time that the scale was truly calibrated? So basically in a sample of 40,000 consecutive day shoot weights, we found that about 54% of those differed by more than 10 pounds, which is pretty good. 25% was more than 20 pounds. 11% was more than 30 pounds. And about 5% of those consecutive day weights were more than 40 pounds different from each other on consecutive days. So that can really influence your average daily gain. Here we're just going to look at a single animal, and so this is what data analysts look at when we run the RFI for a client's trial. So basically, these yellow X's are the shoot weights. The yellow line is just the regression through those shoot weights, so the best fit line. The green bars are actually this individual animal's feed intake on each day. So first of all, we can see that around February 8th, this shoot weight is way up off the regression line. And so that's essentially an inaccurate shoot weight. So this allows us to tell if that shoot weight's inaccurate. And so we would omit this shoot weight and calculate the average daily gain based on the other shoot weights. However, if we look at the end, on the right-hand side, these yellow X's are consecutive day shoot weights. Excuse me. And so now these differed by about 100 pounds. So that's quite a difference. That's really going to affect your average daily gain. And so if we take out this bad chute weight and then calculate the average daily gain using this higher second consecutive day chute weight at the end, compared to the lower first consecutive day end chute weight, is we can see a change in average daily gain of 1.32 pounds. So that really affects your animal, per day. And your RFI, the change in that between using those different consecutive day chute weights at the end is 1.48 pounds, which is quite a difference when you consider that the vast majority of animals that we see for RFI in a good trial group are basically between about -4 and +4 pounds of RFI. So this can really affect your results and the outcome of those phenotypes. And then essentially that, depending on how many progeny or genetic linkages are in those EPDs, can actually affect the accuracy of that EPD as well. Now, just switching to a different animal, this shows another uncertainty of weighing aspect that we've actually come across in a trial. Again, the yellow X's, now they didn't take as many chute weights, but the yellow X's are the chute weights. This yellow line, kind of hidden by my red cursor here, shows the average daily gain based on the chute weight. We can actually see, according to the chute weight, that this animal actually lost a little bit of weight. However, the blue line here, which is the GrowSafe beef weights, which are taken every day and several samples during the day, actually showed an average daily gain, so positive average daily gain. And so the change in average daily gain of this animal using GrowSafe beef was 2.5 pounds higher than what the chute weight was. And it also had a change in RFI of 1.61 pounds. So that's quite a difference. And just to show you, so on the same animal, these are actually the raw GrowSafe beef weights for every day of this animal. So each one of these red dots is a weight that was recorded. And so you can see that we do have some, where there may have been two animals standing on the scale or somebody put a foot up on the edge of the scale while this animal was being registered. Now, because we get a sample of these animals every second that they're weighing, is we can get some of these erroneous weights, but you can see the vast majority of weights follow a nice growth trend. And so when you look back at the previous slide, I can tell you which weight system I would be using for sure to measure accurate average daily gain, just based on the rise of these GrowSafe beef weights. The other thing that this sort of precision can do in GrowSafe beef is we can actually follow that animal's growth trend through the entire trial. So we can see if something affected that animal's weight during the trial, and that could also be reflected in their feed intake. And therefore, we may want to omit that animal from the trial. So basically, in conclusion, standardization of data collection is essential to measuring and predicting feed efficiency. The total trial time can be reduced using GrowSafe beef, so you can test more animals. It's also a lower cost per animal for test just because your yardage costs are going to be less as well. GrowSafe beef increases the accuracy of body weight limits and used in the RFI and EPD calculations. GrowSafe is actually also currently working on tools to assist clients with many of these aspects. So we talked about the trial grouping tool. We're also going to, many of clients that have tested with us before know that usually they wait for a template from us before they fill out that individual animal information. We're actually going to start looking at you being able to pull that data from your database or from our server automatically, and then just fill in the blanks. And that should speed up data analysis as well. So at this point, I think we'll just go to any questions that people have.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. We are going to start with questions now. So you'll see at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A icon. So feel free to submit your questions there. We're going to try to get to as many as possible here in our time allowed. And if we can't get to them, we'll be sending you a response. Also, if you have any questions after the webinar, feel free to submit them to info@growsafe.com, and we can also get to, you responses that way as well. Kevin, so for our first question, if you collect more chute weights in the beginning and end of a trial, can you shorten the trial duration? And by how much? And how many more chute weights would you need to do?
The simple answer to that is no. You cannot actually shorten the trial duration. So everybody, BIF, every breed association, they have all come to the conclusion through many different trials that you actually need 70 days between chute weights to accurately measure average daily gain. The only reason that GrowSafe can shorten that trial to 49 days for accurately measuring average daily gain is because of those daily body weights now, and because of the accuracy of those body weights. And we saw that with the graph comparing the different time frames compared to 70 days of GrowSafe beef.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to keep that in mind. The other thing that the more that you chute weigh animals, the more you affect their behavior. So that's one of the other benefits of GrowSafe beef is these animals are being weighed, they're not being handled, they don't even know they're being weighed, so it doesn't affect them at all. So it's more of a natural setting.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Now this goes to our next question, actually does talk about our 70-day versus 49-day trials. Can you compare EPDs from trials that were run on GrowSafe 70-day trials versus GrowSafe 49-day trials?
Yes, you can. So again, the reason with the 70 days is because they need to accurately measure average daily gain. However, with GrowSafe beef, because we can accurately measure average daily gain in 49 days, they're still comparable. And so the dry matter intake or the average DMI, we still need those 35 valid intake days for that time frame, but the average daily gain is still accurate for those different time periods.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Now, for our next question, something you talked about earlier, if the start weight is to be below 400 pounds, what is the ideal exit weight of those cattle and their carcass weight?
So obviously animals are going to grow at different rates. You know, that average daily gain is going to be different. We haven't necessarily looked, and we're not interested in what the acceptable exit weight is. As long as they're in the same growth curve or same portion of that growth curve during our trial, especially with regards to residual feed intake, that's what we're interested in. There's currently some work being done looking at the partial body weight and hot carcass weight. This is some of the feedlot pilot project that we've undertaken, and we continue to analyze the data from that.
Now, a question about just GrowSafe beef. How many years in the market has GrowSafe beef been used to prove the technology?
Oh, so using GrowSafe beef and coming up with the 49 valid days, that's been around, I think, 4 or 5 years now that we've been using it in RFI trials. Previously, GrowSafe beef was actually implemented in its origins as basically a marketing tool and a detection tool for feedlots, so that they could monitor animals, basically their behaviors or differences in weight throughout the trial. And so you could see if you had poor finishers, if you had animals that possibly had behavioral changes that might indicate a health issue that would flag animals. So because basically we could tell 3 to 4 days before pen riders if animals had behavioral changes. So even before the clinical signs show up, we could tell based on their feeding intake behaviors and their GrowSafe beef patterns.
Right. Now we're going to do 2 more questions. If one uses 80 to 90 day trial, does this give more accuracy with a chute weight program?
So because we can accurately measure average daily gain within 70 days, there isn't really any reason to go farther than that. There are still 1 or 2 clients do 90 days. Some of that is because they're doing a full bull test, and usually those full bull tests usually take 120 days. But the RFI portion really only has to be that 70 days long to accurately measure average daily gain. There would be odd cases where you would pick up possibly a variation, but it's not worth the extra trial. And you also have to remember that there's costs associated with that, especially for consigners.
Right, and for our last question, Kevin, I know we still have questions pouring in, so please, everyone, still feel free to ask your questions. Kevin will we'll work with Kevin and get back to you after the webinar. And like I said, we'll always feel free to email info@growsafe.com, and we can get you responses that way as well. So for our last question, Kevin, what is the recommended number of animals per trial?
So essentially we can test, so you can run an RFI on a group as small as 4 animals in a trial group. However, it's not recommended as much because that phenotypic RFI, which is going to be worked into those EPDs, doesn't have a lot of meaning. So really we'd like to see trial groups over 20 animals or a minimum of 20 animals. I mean, it's just, if you went down to 2 animals, one's always going to have a negative RFI and one's going to have a positive RFI. So you can rank those animals, but that RFI phenotype, which is only accurate within that trial group, doesn't have a lot of meaning. Now, the more genetic linkages that we have, when you put that into EPDs, a bunch of that gets washed out and we get those accuracies.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We look forward to seeing everyone next Tuesday. We're going to be discussing the return on investment for selecting for feed efficiency. That's going to be with Mark Nelson, who's with GrowSafe. Once again, thank you for attending. We'll be sending this webinar out to you through your email. So if you missed anything or missed any of the responses on the questions, you can watch it again there. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.